Today we're going to be talking about psilocybin mushrooms, the potential benefits and investment opportunities once the legalization of these psychedelic drugs come into play. There's been a huge advancement in the FDA approval of a drug called MDMA, which is also known on the streets as ecstasy. So we'll see how these drugs and how this industry can ultimately shift the world and the human psychology.
All right, let's get trippy. Psychedelic mushrooms have just been decriminalized for medicinal purposes in Oregon as of recent. It's been a huge development, pretty cool stuff. This isn't the first time we're seeing stuff like this. I mean, decriminalization of magic mushrooms has been around for quite a bit. There's been some companies in the space, just not really the U.S., because the U.S. is all about money and, you know, putting as many people in jail for whatever reason as possible. But I know Canada has been in the space for quite some time, and they've been some pioneers and have influenced us in many ways because their companies have seen a lot of popular opinions towards their mushroom companies. So I don't know if
They've also been very pro-drug too.
yeah,
Like
I mean,
they've been very just huge advocates of, like, they were legalizing weed before we did.
right, because I mean they're just really nice people. Canadians are just so wholesome and open-minded, unlike us U.S.ers.
So let's get right into it. Let's just do the intro.
Let's just dive, yeah.
Okay.
you
Well,
feel
I'm
it?
Peter.
Do you feel it?
I'm feeling it.
I think it's kicking in.
I'm feeling it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Elliot Diaz, and you're listening to Pineapple Chunks. All
Man,
right.
we're gonna get really trippy because this industry of magic mushrooms is an $86 billion industry. Can you believe that?
Well, no, it's gonna be 86 billion by 2025.
Projections.
And not magic mushrooms, just fungi overall.
But, you know, in the market, you talk about market caps, you talk about all this stuff. And in reality, like, does Apple have $2 trillion?
Well, Apple isn't getting into the mushroom business. So
No, they're not.
So I don't believe that at all.
But what I'm
If
saying,
they were getting into the fungi business, then yeah, they would have $2 trillion.
I don't think so. No, that's just the market cap. That's what I'm saying. It's not the money that they have on hand. It's just the value that they have based on the outstanding shares and the share price. So it's like the projected $86 billion of psilocybin is a huge benchmark just to start off from. And you mentioned how it includes food, culinary to be more exact, and then the medicinal space of psychotherapy.
Right. So what's the two main drivers that is gonna blast off this market cap of fungi into outer space is just the culinary aspect of it, right? I mean, you eat a lot of fungi and it's gonna be used into a lot of supplements and whatnot. And then there's a whole pharmaceutical part of it where they're gonna take advantage of this and make their money out of it, right? So those are gonna be the two drivers that's gonna really blast this into space, like I mentioned.
And it's basically like culinary, like microdosing, like taking a little dose of a psychedelic drug to cope with the day. And like, why would you take a portion of a drug that gives you a high, like on a daily basis? And this might sound strange, especially for a drug like as recreational as psilocybin, but we take drugs all the time. I mean, the kid who was prescribed Adderall. Hell, you might have been prescribed Adderall.
You probably drink coffee every morning.
That's another drug.
There
yeah.
you go, dude.
And so psilocybin is just another drug that has gotten a bad rap for obvious reasons. I mean, there's a lot of dangers that can go with taking these substances, but there's also a lot of benefits when done the right way. And this has to do with having the right person around you, set and setting, and then going through the conventional therapeutic process of dealing with trauma, destroying depression, annihilating PTSD, and conquering your anxiety. All right. So that's the biggest positive that I see. And I just realized I haven't recorded for that. But we'll download it from here anyway. But what about the pharmacy industries? You know, coming from a man who graduated with a
A
chemistry
chemistry degree. Yeah.
what you say about the pharmacy industry for psychedelics?
So in regards to the whole treatment and the whole therapeutic aspect of it all, I don't think we're gonna be seeing much of that. I think we're gonna be seeing very compartmentalized or segmented doses where you're gonna get prescribed these psychedelic drugs, but in a way where you're gonna have to keep coming back, right? It's not gonna be a one single moment cure for you. It's gonna be we need that recurring income, because that's the way they think. That's the
That's
way.
the only way
That's
it'll be profitable for them to even go through.
at least in the
Le-
U.S. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like to
Right.
go through. I mean, you're seeing it now with the thing that the thing that happened. You know, the plague, and with the FDA approval of the vaccines,
Yeah.
and how long it actually takes. But they've just sped it up. We've seen a sped up version of how a drug becomes a drug, or a vaccine becomes a vaccine, and but that process usually takes years and years. And Rick Doblin, the founder of Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, he he started this organization to legalize or begin the legalization for the therapeutic uses of MDMA therapy.
And so, you're right, like just that's an example that you mentioned that's really good. And another example is ketamine, and how we've able to synthesize a isomer of ketamine. And for those of you who don't know, isomer is just, if you think of ketamine as a chemical compound, an isomer is the same chemical compound, just with like a little notch difference in it. And so this new isomer is prescribed to people who have bad depression, bad anxiety, because ketamine has been shown to show great improvement in those symptoms and those mental disorders. But the thing is with that, the problem is you can really just treat somebody once or twice or three times, just not all the time in regards to a dosage, right? Like with ketamine, you need therapeutic practice. You need someone to kind of guide you through the whole experience, and you shouldn't just be taking like a little. I don't really know how they dose it with like a vial or like a pill. I don't take it, so I wouldn't really know. And it's like they want that recurring income. Like you kind of have to keep coming back for more ketamine. So I think that's kind of how we're gonna deal with it. And
The S ketamine,
the
right?
S ketamine, yes,
From
the
Johnson and
isomer.
Johnson.
Yeah, that one.
Believe it or not, this blew my mind. I mean, like a public company, Johnson and Johnson, making a synthetic ketamine that doesn't have the high effects, but gives you all the benefits of
No, it gets you high.
relieving. Well, it's not like as crazy. I mean,
Yeah, it's not. It's very controlled.
it's
Yeah.
much more controlled, and it's meant, like how Ali said, to keep you coming back,
Mhm.
because you know they can't cure you. They want to treat you, so you can keep paying the premium on your insurance or pay them
That's
for
a
these
good
drugs.
way to put it. That's what I've been thinking. They want to cure. They don't want to cure you. They want to treat you, which is very different. The two.
And the challenge here for most of these companies, these public companies, or Johnson Johnson, Abivai, these pharmaceutical companies, is that these drugs are kind of like a one and done situation. Like you do a session of a psychedelic experience, whether it be mushrooms, MDMA therapy, ketamine, and you're good for like 6 months to a year. You won't have to have a resurgence of depression, a resurgence of intense anxiety, panic attacks, or PTSD episodes. So that's the biggest challenge. So they're trying to figure out a way to not make it as effective and ultimately maximize the profitability and minimize the human benefit in a sense.
Right. It's not gonna be like you and your boys decide to take a trip to Peru and have like a little ayahuasca retreat and just kind of find yourself. It's not gonna be anything
No.
like that. It's gonna be like, but like a small, very microdose of psilocybin, probably extracted in a little vial. You have to like take it every morning, but it's not gonna do anything until you get like a really proper therapeutic treatment for it. But
But it's still great news that there is a huge push. I mean, the MDMA FDA phases is already on like phase 3, I believe, and they're really far ahead, you know. And there will be a point, especially you in the future, to go into a therapist or a psychologist's office and be able to pay for an MDMA assisted therapy, where you would be with a psychologist or a therapist. You take the drug and you lay down and you talk about your traumas, and if you don't want to talk about it, MDMA will make you want to talk about it. And that's the best part. Like, that's the best part about the drug, is that it allows you to really go deep and yank out all those nasty weeds and just form new and blossoming vegetables.
Everything that smells bad, they're just going to take it right out of you. It's kind of like Headspace, but instead of meditating, they're going to guide you through a whole wave of glitches and pixels and all that trippy stuff.
What about MindMed, though?
Oh, MindMed is the Canadian company I mentioned.
Oh, you brought it up earlier?
I brought it up earlier. I just remember the name.
So
but MindMed has, they're going to go public on the Neo Stock Exchange. And so they've actually been around for a long time. And they've...
Let me pull it up really quick. MindMed.
Yeah, because I don't know too many specifics. But I like the name. I mean, it's a really solid name.
Psychedelic inspired medicines. Let me just make sure.
The alliteration is really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They seem to be on the ball. Okay, great. Let me just make sure that you all have it in the screen. But it says breakthrough mental healing. And breakthrough it is. That is for sure. And they help patients unlock the healing power of the mind through psychedelic-inspired medicine, Cool Woman of a Beautiful Lady, so they can overcome. And this is some next-level stuff. Like,
well, actually, it's next gen.
Next gen
R&B or R&D.
You wanna click on that? Let's see.
Let's do that. It's a magical
Psychedelic
pill.
innovation. MindMed is discovering and researching a broad range of novel compounds, therapies, and technologies with the goal of unlocking new pathways for patients. Fantastic. So MDMA LSD combination. Look at this. They're not even, like, you hear this stuff at a music festival. You know, you don't hear real doctors. Dr. Michael Bogenschutz.
This guy has
MD.
a PhD.
He has a
PhD, and he's saying all this. He's vouching for it all. It's pretty
He's
amazing.
a doctor.
It's pretty amazing.
So they're funding and launching clinical training at New York University, Langone Health, that aims to facilitate the recruitment and training for psychiatrists and clinical investigators in delivering psychedelic-assisted therapies and psychedelic-inspired medicines. In preparation for future deployment of these medicines, it is imperative to get psychedelic substances in front of clinical researchers and give them the resources they need to help clarify the path forward. And now this is a huge step forward, because it's really is all about who's first. Who got there first? Who has the brand?
And who had the balls overall? Like, who had the
these
audacity?
guys.
Yeah, these guys. I mean,
they're talking about mixing MDMA and LSD.
There was a risky business when this whole prohibition was like serious. These guys were like, nah. I mean, I'm sure they had a lot of money to be able to lobby and all that stuff, but these guys still had the courage to make this a venture.
And they're collaborating with many universities. I mean, Johns Hopkins, for example, has a huge fund. Yeah. Tim Ferriss has funded the psychedelic research therapies.
There are a lot of big names backing all this up. This industry is going to pop, and it's very exciting.
And look, this right here, it says LSD microdosing right here for adult ADHD. And look, they've gone from pre-discovery all the way to phase 2A. Now, I don't know what that means, but it seems like they need to get...
at that?
Huh?
You think Steve Jobs did that?
Hey, he did like an LSD experience.
No, like you think maybe like the founder of what is now a $2 trillion company, Apple, took acid and made it public, and now everyone's like, oh, maybe LSD isn't so bad. It made this guy super rich.
Every Silicon Valley entrepreneur wannabe has thought about this logical progression and taken huge amounts of drugs to try to replicate wearing the turtlenecks and the New Balances
and the jeans
the bell bottom jeans. Oh no, I think they're like whitewashed, the mom jeans. They're the mom jeans. Yeah. And so everybody has thought of this, and those guys are crazy. But listen, you know, Steve Jobs did a lot of LSD. He did what they call macro dosing, not necessarily micro dosing. They've said Bill Gates has done so, and there's
talking big, not small here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, actually, Steve Jobs would frequently make fun or joke at Bill Gates for not taking LSD, and but anyway, that's just an aside. Nonetheless, it's an interesting field that is growing, and
So, okay, you guys are hearing all this and you're like, wow, like this is going to pop. It's very obvious because, I mean, Elliot and Peter are talking about it. So it must be true. And yeah, it's true. But how are you going to get a piece of the pie? How is a regular person like you and me going to get a piece of this mega industry?
How are you going to invest?
I mean, there are a few ways, right? You don't have to necessarily get into the whole psilocybin industry, but you can rest assured that the whole fungi industry is going to fucking explode. Oh. I'm sorry, I cursed. Anyway, so
Don't forget to like the video, whoever's watching this right now.
yes, please do that. It'll really help with the YouTube algorithm. I mean, you all know about the YouTube algorithm.
Johnson & Johnson, though. Johnson & Johnson. Pay attention to them.
Right.
For investing.
Because they're already public. So you can already put your money into that.
Right.
And aside from that, you could also just get into fungi-related ventures. I mean, I know there is mud water nowadays, and that is basically coffee with mushrooms in them. But there are the types of mushrooms that kind of give you that neurotic up, or like chaga or lion's mane mushroom. And so mud water is a very exploding industry right now with over 200,000 searches in the past month on Reddit. And I mean, we can show you the charts right now.
Yeah. What do I pull up?
Here. Wait, it's on here. I could probably.
Well, let's see. Well, we'll explain the chart, just because out of an essence of time.
Right. So right here you see that. No, not this one. Yeah, this one actually. Right here you see that
There's a chart that explains from January 2014 to January 2020. But what are you looking at? The subscribers?
yeah, the subscribers, and I mean this
Okay.
the amount of searches also. This
For
is,
mycology.
right. Well, no, this is for Mudwater. Says it right here.
Okay, so mud water. And there's been a huge uptick. It looks like an exact J curve. And it goes from January 2014 to January 2020, literally from 0 to 250,000 searches in 2020.
Right, so it's getting pretty big, and the big players right now in
Explain
this
again
space-
what mud water is.
So Mudwater is just like a cocktail of different mushrooms.
But like
And some
psychedelic mushrooms.
No, they're not psychedelic mushrooms. They're like they're mushrooms that are supposed to enhance neurotic activity, kind of nootropics.
Like
nootropics.
chaga mushrooms.
Chaga, lion's mane mushrooms. They have some like cacao, some turmeric, a little bit of caffeine, but it's basically this cocktail. It's supposed to like compete with coffee. It's a coffee alternative, and they're using like a bunch of mushrooms in it because mushrooms are getting so big.
And they're super beneficial to our
Right.
psychology. I mean, it's interesting because mycelium, also known as mushrooms, any kind of mushrooms, have a real way of connecting with our bodies. Like they really have, like mushrooms are like genetically so similar to us.
Yeah.
At least some of them. Some are poisonous, but they help us
Some will
so
kill you.
well. It's just so fascinating to me. I mean, we're not Mycenian researchers or anything like that, but nonetheless, it's really fascinating, and we'll definitely do more episodes on this. But right now, we should definitely end it, just so we can see. This is our first live stream, so thank you very much for watching it. And we'll do a outro real quick. You want to say anything before we go?
Just if you are doing psychedelic mushrooms, be safe.
And don't do them.
And don't do them if
And-
they're not
And this is all
prescribed.
educational purposes. Don't invest in anything we've mentioned. And I own a share of Johnson & Johnson. I'm not really too heavy on them. But
J&J.
J&J, let's go.